first is just a little bit of detail, and I'll just do this before we move on. A little bit of detail about the MSC Lay and Professed Council. Paul, in his address on yesterday morning, referred to Fitzgerald, who's was principal at Chevalier College, is now based one of the married couples out at Douglas Park and helps in the running of the place. Fred also chairs the MSC Lay and Professed Council. It's a council that tries to give, with lay people and professed people, tries to give voice to a lay spirituality of the heart and how do we live MSC charism. I'm on that council, and Alison, who's been around on and off, is as well, plus a group of representatives of both religious and lay. We meet at Douglas Park every couple of months. The reason why I'm just saying something about it with Fred's details, that if you're interested in that spirituality, whatever context you're living in and working in, this is the council you may like to be in touch with and just to know what we're doing and what's on offer and what's what are the possibilities for this. Because in the stats that Paul was presenting us with this morning, it may well be that the time's going to come when your parish is not a so-called MSC parish, so an MSC person as the parish priest, but you may well want to stay connected with the spirituality of charism. The lay council is for people everywhere, whether we're in MSC ministries or not, to connect with the spirituality, to live it out. So those details are there, if you'd like to have those details and perhaps stay in touch. Secondly, on the board down the back, I've just left my just name, address and email address, just in case, because some people have been just asking, is there some follow-up, and some have asked for information about a few things, and if you want to contact me, the email address is there. I've also mentioned that I was going to provide you with a memory stick with the PowerPoints from yesterday on it, in discussion with Brett, who's been here playing the guitar, who's our admin person. He's advised that's not the best way to do it. The best way for us to pass on information is he's going to upload it onto a website, and I will then send you that address, and you'll be able to download whatever you like from that website. But in order to do that, I'm going to need your email address. On the table also there is an evaluation form just for this these couple of days, which you may like to complete for us. If you would like that information, especially, there's a spot at the very bottom for you to give me your email address. And with that email address, I will then send you the address that you need to get hold of the PowerPoints. Just a couple of announcements before we start this session. If you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask me during the break. Where we're going then now, three movements, and it's a bit different to what's on the printed program. Three movements for you. We're going to spend some time just doing a discernment process. We've talked a lot about discernment, and discernment as a way to listen to our heart and to listen to what God might be saying to me in the moment, and saying not just to me but to us in the moment. And a discernment process then for groups, that a group can use to discern and to listen to God's voice. So I'm just going to say something about that process and then invite you into a smaller, shorter, but hopefully valuable just experience of doing some discernment together. And there'll be some personal time in that, and then some group time just to do it. And then so that's the first part. The second part, we're then going to invite you in parish groups to start to consider, you're going to leave here later today or tomorrow, and you're going back to your parishes, what then? And especially, how do you share this experience with your parish? I know quite a number of you are talking about that, but we'll come to that after about 3/4 of an hour or so, and I'll give you a specific question and process for doing that. But have afternoon tea, then after afternoon tea, the MSC Parish Committee is going to form a panel here for us, and you can fire away. It's an opportunity then to dialogue with the parish committee about your issues, your concerns, your feedback, your comments, I don't know what that is, you do. And I know a lot of you have been thinking and talking about that already. That'll be an opportunity after. Okay, so to this discernment process, and there's been a lot of input and a lot of words and a lot of stuff, and so it's time just to be still for a while. But just before we do that, the third sheet on that I handed out over lunchtime is just called Decision Making with Heart. And in the centre of that, it's got the last part of that. The whole thing is a discernment. It's a discernment decision-making process. So it's how do you make decisions in a way that doesn't do damage to anybody. And this process was developed by Benedictine nun, Mary Bennett McKinney in the States, following the Second Vatican Council. And all that enthusiasm after the council, parish committees were formed, and there was a lot of way that people were going to get involved. And the experience was, after a very short time, lots of people started to walk away very disillusioned with what was happening. They were turning up with all the enthusiasm to contribute their ideas, and they found they weren't being listened to Peter stuff. Some people were dominating the discussion. Some people were coming there like, as if we were running an Australian or American parliamentary system where we had people who were agitating for this is what we had to do, and we were getting support, and we were getting our supporters behind us, and we got to the meeting and we dominated the meeting, we had the vote, and we made sure that what we wanted happened. And all the other people who, perhaps the introverted type, were the ones that, this is not Christian, this is not right, there's something wrong, I'm not going to be involved, that's why it is. So Mary Bennett McKinney developed this consensus, which is a discernment, decision-making process to ensure that that didn't happen. And I'm not going to, because we've had enough theology and spirituality in the theory of it. There's a whole theology, spirituality of it, which is at the top part of the sheet, in which we could, I've spent a whole day working with people on this process, but I'm not going to do that obviously now. But the brief thing is, Mary Bennett McKinney said a good consensus, discernment, decision-making process is like making a really good vegetable soup. You get all the ingredients, all those beautiful vegetables, all the ones that's left over in the fridge. You blend them all together into the soup. And good vegetable soup, it takes 3 or 4 or 5 days of blending and boiling, and at the end, when you come to eat it, you can't recognise the carrot or the celery or whatever. It's become a different thing. She said a good decision-making process involving a group of people is a bit like that. All the views, everybody's view needs to be heard. Everybody's got something to contribute. Even those who feel, I don't know much about this, they've got some bit of wisdom, she used the word wisdom, some bit of wisdom to offer, and everybody needs to hear all of it. And so there's a listening process whereby you take the time, as Peter was talking to us the other day, to really hear what each person is saying, without argument, without discussion, without body language that just rejects somebody's comment, but everybody's view is put on the table. And when I put my view out there, it's no longer mine, it belongs to the group. So my task is simply to share the wisdom I've got, and then not to fight or argue or push that point of view any longer, but to leave it there for the group. And everybody else is doing the same. So it takes a lot of deep spirituality in order for a group to do that, but it's beautiful when it works, and it's stunningly spiritual experience when it works. So that everything goes, and then we go around. There's no vote ever taken in this process. We just keep moving around the table with, so where are people feeling, what do you think we should be doing, until you reach consensus that, yes, this is the way to go. Inevitably people say, but what about if 2 or 3 don't agree? You wait to make the decision until the whole group is able to move forward. It may mean that some don't agree, but they've got the care and the understanding of the group at heart that can allow the group to go ahead with the decision, even though I'm not yet able to agree with where the group's going. So I can let go of my ego, which is normally what it is, let go of my strong opinion about this, because there's 6 people around the table, and there's me who's got a strong view against it, and my mate here, is sort of wavering, but everybody else feels this is where we need to go. So I can let it go and trust the spirit moving in the group that says, well, this is not my point. So that's the basis of this process. And the details of how it works are written on the sheet. But as I said, it's a discernment process that creates time in your heart around prayer and really listening beyond the clatter of your mind, beyond the, I want this because God knows why I want it. sometimes there's that sort of stuff goes on. So for the process we want to use just this afternoon is not going, like that process is used for many decision-making processes and I've spent work at school and parish level, especially where there's time to make the decision. Sometimes decisions have to be made in a hurry because the survey's got to be done, or the money's not going to be there tomorrow if we don't make it, all those sort of things. But this so you can't use that process obviously for that sort of decision making, those issues. But for ones where you do have the time, strategic planning, where you've got the time, this process enables you to do that. So instead of dealing though with an issue or decision to be made, we're going to do a scriptural discernment process. And we're just going to take the passage from Corinthians, the spiritual gifts passage, that we have heard a couple of times now. And we're going to, so I'll read it for you. And then what I'm going to invite you to do is to go aside somewhere. You may stay here, but you may like to just go out and sit quietly somewhere by yourself. And perhaps to do what we did with it the other night, just let a couple of words from the passage. What words are you finding are you being drawn to? Or what about the reading are you being drawn to? And just wait with the passage, reflectively, silently, and just see and listen. Just wait till your whole self settles and just listen to what the passage might be saying to you. And the passage is about gifts. So especially listen to what's gift of leadership do I have? Where's the Spirit working in me around my gifts? Just sit with that passage and that question. And eventually you may come to, beyond just self, who in the parish that you belong to, do you sense in this quiet space as gift for leadership? It may not be somebody here, it may be somebody who wasn't able to come. But perhaps would that person be one that we could go to and say, hey, this group of people think you've got the gift for leadership. Would you consider it? Would you think about it? And so that's the final part of this. But initially we just want to stay with the scripture passage, spend time with it, letting it speak to you, and then we'll come back to the groups. Is that okay? So let's just to begin this week, there's a bit of quietness already, but just the stillness within your own heart where you listen to the voice, you listen to God's voice. That place where Peter shared with us that the Mother Teresa type experience of listening. There's a me listening, and there's another side of the mystery also listening. And there's a respectful place of presence and mystery that exists in the space between us. Now there are varieties of gifts of the same Spirit, and there are varieties of service of the same Lord, and there are varieties of activities, but it's the same God who activates all of them in every one. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. To one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge according to the same Spirit. To another, faith by the same Spirit. To another, gifts of healing by the same Spirit. To another, the working of miracles. To another, prophecy. To another, the discernment of spirits. To another, various kinds of tongues. And to another, the interpretation of tongues. All these are activated by the one and same Spirit, who allots to each one individually, just as the Spirit chooses. So I'd invite you to take 20 minutes, we'll be here at 20 past, and just to go somewhere by yourself quietly. You might like to read that again, listen to it again. What's the Spirit saying to you now? And most of that, so the next process is this, and again for another 20 minutes, and this is perhaps a bit unfamiliar, the next stage of this process, because it's not what we normally do. But the invitation now is just to listen to one another. And we do that, we just give each person space to say what it is they want to say. And whatever that might be to say it. And each person then listens. There's no commentary, there's no comment, there's no question, there's no disputation or anything. We just let each person say. And when each person's finished, we just pause for a little while and just spend a bit of time reflectively hearing that, and then somebody else speaks. There's no need to say thank you or that was great or whatever. Just let what each person's got to say be on the table. And when everybody's had a turn, everybody's been around, you just sit again, just go into that quiet, reflective space again and see what you've heard, all of that. And then if something's coming up for somebody in relation to everything that's been heard, then we say that. But we don't enter it, you don't enter, it's not a discussion process. It's not, oh, that makes me think, or I feel, or, you know, or when you said that, none of that. It's just, this is what's emerging for me in this whole process. And normally we want to have some sort of discussion around the stuff, but it's not that. This process is not around that. It's just me listening to what's been said in this group and me listening to what's arising within myself and having the courage and the freedom and the care and the love within the group to share that. Is that okay? So again, for about 20 minutes we've got to do that. Some of the smaller groups will probably finish early, but the larger groups might need all of that time. Okay.